I want to get into a little bit also with a question that I get asked all the time as well. And I know you can answer this better than me. Can personality change?
So there's a couple of components there. So one point of confusion that I think people run into a lot when they think about personalities, they think that personality is saying that people are fixed all the time and they always behave in the same way no matter what. And that's actually not true. There's a bunch of research. I've done some research. Other people have done research showing that if we take like a scale of extroversion from 1 to 100, almost everybody, no matter whether you're extrovert or an introvert, at some point in time and different situations behaves the entire range of the scale. In some situations, you're a one. In some situations, you're 100. What really defines your personality as an extrovert or an introvert is the way that you tend to lean, right? That in most situations you tend to be closer to a one, or in most situations you tend to be closer to 100. And so people, you can think about it like a density distribution. With some people, they maybe their mean is around a 75, which means they mostly are towards the high end of the extroversion scale, but even sometimes they're at the one. And other people might have a mean of a 25, meaning that mostly they're close to those ones in that introverted side of the scale. But even those folks at sometimes are 100. So the point is that people can behave the entire range of behavioral personality characteristics at any time. What personality really is defining is that mean, that average, the way that you tend to behave. If we didn't know any other information, right? If we just had to guess, what would we guess? That's what your personality is. But a bigger question, a part of that is about personality change. Can we sort of change that mean? Can we sort of change the way we tend to act? And the answer is partly yes and partly no, right? So a couple of things that we know about. To the degree to which personality is is related to our biology, that's a part that's in some respects difficult to change, but in some respects very changeable, right? So there's been lots of classic studies on personality change, looking at actual biological change. So if you are struck with something, like if you the classic study of a person getting a railroad spike through the brain and how that's changed the way they behave, their self control, those kinds of things. So
Oh,
actual
Phineas Gage.
physical biological change can in some respects change the way we think, feel, and behave. It's, so to speak, changing our personality. At the same time, there's a lot of sort of medicines that people take. I think a lot about antidepressants. In some respects, that's what an antidepressant is about. You're taking this antidepressant, and it's changing your mood, it's changing your emotions, it's changing how you feel and think across time. And so, in some respects, that's sort of changing your biology, right? You're changing your biology, which is changing your behavior. But from a sort of everyday standpoint, if we're taking away the sort of outside influences on our biology and thinking about, look, I want to intentionally change my personality. I want to become more agreeable, or I want to become more conscientious, something like that. There is some research suggesting that it can be done, but it requires a lot of effortful control. It takes a lot of practice. And here's the way I like to think about it. I know, Nick, you have a lot of people who are in the sports world who listen to your content. I think about it like a golf swing or a tennis stroke. If you've been practicing a golf swing for some time, or if you've been practicing your tennis stroke for some time, and you get with an instructor who says, I think if you do it this way, you'll have better results, right? You're trying to improve your golf stroke or your tennis stroke, and they say, okay, let's do that. Let's try it this way. You're not going to get it right away. You're not going to immediately make those adjustments and be consistent on those adjustments all the time. You're going to have to practice it and practice it and practice it. And what the old rule, I don't even know if this is true, but the old rule was you need to practice it at least twice as much as you've been doing it the old way, right? So if you've been doing it the old way for 2 years, you need to spend 4 years practicing it the new way for it to really sink in. I'm not sure if that's a true rule or not, but the point is, you'll need a lot of concentrated, effortful practice for that sort of new swing to become automatic. And I think it's the same thing with personality. The catch is, with personality is, we've been practicing our personality our whole lives. We've been practicing it since about, basically since the time we were born. Definitely by the time we were 5 years old, we've been trying out different behavioral strategies, trying out different emotional and thinking strategies to help solve the problems in our daily lives. And those have become pretty automatic and pretty routine by the time we get into our teens or our 20s or our 30s or our 40s. And we say, I'd really like to change myself. I'd really like to change in some way. You've been practicing it a lot. So can you change those behavioral tendencies? The answer is yes, but it's going to take a heck of a lot of work. And the reality is that most people aren't that committed to it. Now, there's some studies showing that with that right kind of commitment, you can do it. In fact, the whole enterprise of psychotherapy, in some respects, that's really what it's about. It's about really concentrated effort. But psychotherapy, to be fair, usually takes many months of actual practice and work. And then you have to maintain it over some period of time to really get lasting change. So can personality change? I think the answer is yes, but it usually requires some pretty powerful interventions for that to happen.